Welcome to You Can Trust Yourself with Meg and Maggie. Nothing feels as good as listening to your own voice, and each week we have conversations to help you do just that. Get comfy, grab your favorite fun drink, and let's dive into this week's episode. Hello, friends. Oh my gosh, I'm so excited. I can't even say anything else before the fact that I'm excited. Okay, welcome to You Can Trust Yourself with Meg and Maggie. Meg, welcome to the show. We're back.
Welcome back. It's season 3, baby.
Oh my gosh. Okay, so if you are not new here, you may have noticed that the name has changed again. Here we are. We are now You Can Trust Yourself with Meg and Maggie. But a lot of the content is going to be very similar to what it was before.
Very, very similar.
Yeah, so that is very exciting. And today, since it's the first episode back, we really just wanted to start with kind of like a shorter intro. And we have 3 main topics that we want to discuss. So the first one is our mission. We want to explain that a little bit to you. You hear that in the intro and the outro of the episodes, but we want to just talk about that in depth a little bit more. The second one, kind of playing off of that, is what does it mean to trust ourselves, right? Like, why are we talking about this in the first place? And then the third one, we're just going to share some life updates because it's been, what, like 2 years since our last episode came out, which is
since last season, yeah.
mind-blowing.
Sure.
Yeah. So that's where we are. That's where we're at.
That's where we are. So Maggie and I spent some time when we decided to bring the podcast back and to do season 3 and move forward. We kind of went down our list of like, what did we used to talk about? What were the main points? What did people love? What were the most listened to episodes? Things like that. And we settled on the mission. It kind of got, transcended down all of the different topics to trusting ourselves and hoping that our listeners trust themselves, right? Because trusting yourself affects every single aspect of your life. And so we wanted it to be super, super specific. And we were like, what about You Can Trust Yourself podcast? And so it was kind of just born out of being really specific to what we hope to bring you all. And so you can give the pretty words if you want, Maggie, like the actual official mission if you want to read it, but they'll also hear it at the end of the episode. So
I do have them pulled up, and I think I would love to read them.
Okay, you read them.
So we're all on the same page, right? Because this is what you're going to find if you go, when you go to Apple or Spotify and like there's a description of the show, this is what you're going to find. And we want to talk about it a little bit more because there's only so many words you can fit in the written description, But okay, so I love words. So many words. Okay. So in a world with so many opinions, it's difficult to trust ourselves. We know it's not easy, and that's why each week we will vulnerably share our personal stories and experiences. Our mission is to leave you with encouragement and tools to nurture your ability to trust yourself. So that is really the overall mission, right? Like that's what we're here to do. That's what everything is going to tie into. And it really starts with that first sentence, which is, in a world with so many opinions, it's difficult to trust ourselves. And this was you, Meg. Like this is your vision for the start of it. So do you want to talk a little bit more about what that means to you?
So when we think of the world, I like the word noisy for some reason. I just feel like this world is noisy. And if you live in a city or somewhere where you're, where there's a lot of people that live by you, I feel like it's even noisier, right? And so it was actually like a weird abstract idea that I had when I first brought it back to Maggie. I was like, I don't know, I just picture like cars and sirens and all these sounds. And I'm just thinking like this world is so noisy, virtually, in person, real life. Like there's a lot going on. And a lot of it is wonderful and positive, right? But it's still a lot going on. And with all of that comes a lot of opinions, right? Opinions in the workplace, opinions in the family systems we're from, opinions in friend groups. A lot of people are very eager and usually well-meaning to give you their opinion, right? Which can make it really, really hard to still have your own voice and your own thoughts. And the part that is the most difficult is the ability to keep trusting yourself, right? It's a practice. It's not something that you read enough of the self-help books and all of a sudden You can trust yourself forever. It's one of those things where you have to maintain it. And Maggie and I work to maintain that to this day and will continue to. But it's one of the most freeing and powerful gifts that you can have is the ability to trust yourself. So that sentence of really, with so many other opinions out there, it's hard to hear yourself, and we know that. So I love the second part of the mission of, that's why we'll give you our stories and tools to encourage you to continue learning and nurturing your ability to trust yourself.
Yeah. Well said. Well said. Thank you. Um, that second part is really important for us to define as well because yes, we might share, like research backed tools that we have found that work really well for us, or maybe even some that don't work well for us, but work well for others, right? Megan, you are in
I hope somebody's
school.
watching on YouTube. I'm so sorry, Meg.
She
I
just
just
spilled
dribbled.
water all over her face.
I had to stop us there because we go on YouTube too, and I'm not editing that out. And I hope everybody just saw the water dribble down my face. I'm so sorry, Maggie. You were in the
It's
brilliant thought ahead.
If you are listening on audio and you want to watch us make fun of ourselves while we do this, highly recommend you go over to YouTube where you can get the full experience, see
Full
it, hear it,
experience.
everything. But okay, so what I was saying is that, like, Megan, you're in school to be a therapist, right?
Mhm.
I am a coach, I have clients. We are not going to be being your therapist or your coach on this podcast, right? We're sharing our stories, we're sharing our experiences. It's more of a come with us, let's do this together, right?
Mhm.
Where you will find some things you might be able to take away as like advice or, a plan of action. But this really is, we want it to be a joint experience, right? Where you feel like you are in the room with us, we're having conversation together, and we are all working on learning
Mhm.
how to trust ourselves more, finding our inner voice, right? Finding who we truly are and listening to it,
Mhm.
not just being always in our head learning new things but not taking action, right? We really want to blend all of that together. And we feel the best way to do that in a space like this is by hearing other people's stories, hearing their
Yeah.
experiences, right? Seeing that, oh, if someone else did this, then I can do it too. Or if someone else struggled
Sure.
with this, then I don't feel as alone, right? And that's
Mhm.
really what we want to bring to you here.
Sure. And it brings connection, right? Back to my point of the world being noisy. The thing that makes life, in my opinion at least, and I think in a lot of people's, is connecting with other humans through shared experiences. And so one of our goals this time around with the podcast is to really build a community as well, right? So that hopefully, a dream of mine would be to see our listeners actually interacting with each other in some way, right? Whether that be on a fan page or whatever it may be, that ability to connect with one another while being on the same journey of learning how to trust yourself is powerful and way more fun with friends. And so that was beautifully said, Maggie, that we may not be able to work with you directly, but this is our way of giving you a tool, or tool is not the best word, a place where you can come and hear our thoughts, experiences, and anything we want to share that can help you along that journey in a setting that you can listen to in the privacy of your own car or home or whatever it may be.
Yeah, absolutely. I'm so excited to be back. This is already so fun. Okay, so going off of that a little bit, I want to hear a little bit more, Meg, about what does it mean to you to trust yourself? So, however you want to explain that, in whatever way that makes sense to you, I'd love to know a little bit more about what that means to you.
I'm debating like how far back to go because I think sometimes you have to remember why you even had the desire to learn how to trust yourself. Because I think for a lot of people, they don't even realize that it's an option, right? Like it seems so far away, or they're so disconnected to themselves or their own like true voice and self that it just sounds too far-fetched to even begin the journey of trusting yourself. So a part of me debates Maggie, and you can probably tell me quick on the spot if you think it would be valuable or not, but you were a part of that story for me. And it was the story where I saw the book as a sign, and it was like my first experience with my own voice. And I could save it for another time too, but
I think you should share it.
okay. So there was a time when I was in my first master's program, becoming a school psychologist, and I just was not connected to myself in the way that I could make decisions and trust myself to make them. So let me tell you, since I didn't have that, your girl knew how to get advice. I would call everyone I knew. They were all really great advice givers, honestly, but they were all different, and they all the advice like varied amongst who I would ask. And I remember wanting to leave that program. I was very far into that program. A lot of money was invested in that program, and the voice I heard the most was my mom's. Love you, mom. But I heard her voice the most, right? Because she was the most predominant figure in my life. So I heard her voice of being like, no, you're going to finish this program. You're not going to leave it. But in my gut, I knew that I wanted to leave it, but I had no idea how to make that decision and trust myself. And so I'm sitting in my internship, year 3, tens of thousands of dollars invested in it. And I remember texting Maggie and I was like, I want to leave this program. Like, I do not want to become a school psychologist. Like, it is not for me. I want to just walk out of this building and be done with it. And I said, I want it to be like, I kept praying that morning, like, God, I just want to know. Like, why can't I just trust myself and know? And I remember texting Maggie and I was like, I just want to have like a dramatic movie scene where I run out of the building and it's raining. And she texts me back because she was one person in my life who was able to just hold space but didn't give her opinion unless you asked for it. She was just a more emotionally mature person who was able to really make space for me and not crowd me with her thoughts, right? So when I said I want to run out of this building in the rain, and she texts me back and she said it's raining with a winky face. And it was indeed raining. I looked outside, it was raining. And so I did it. I just made the decision. I had no sign if it was right, wrong. I just made the decision on my own. And I did it, and blah, blah, blah. I'm on my way out of the building, and there's a book there in the bathroom on my way out. Never noticed it before. And in big, bold letters, it said, "So now you know." And it was my only experience that was so like bone chilling and spiritual and connected. And there was just a sign that was laid out for me and me alone. And ever since then, I swear it has been easier for me to trust myself in those ways because it's led me down so many paths ever since. And the part that I want you to take away from that story is that I didn't get that sign until after I made the decision on my own, like my own self made that decision. Then I got some confirmation. And there's not always signs when you make decisions, but that's a very special story to me. So it was nice to actually share it again with you all and with you, Maggie.
Yeah, thank you for sharing that. I'm happy you shared that takeaway at the end because that's what I was going to say too, is that
Hmm.
when it comes to trusting ourselves, it's so tempting and makes us feel so much more comfortable to say, well, as soon as I know that it'll be the right decision, then I'll do it. Right. And that is actually the opposite. Right.
Hmm.
That's actually the opposite. And like you said, you're not going to get that confirmation. You're not going to know if you made the right decision until you make it. And you're not going to be able to build up that muscle of being able to hear what is right for you because the way you hear it shows up differently for everyone, right? Some people actually hear like dialogue with themselves. For me, I have like a very gut visceral response. Like in my body, I get like a very clear yes or no. Everyone has a different experience of
Hmm.
what that looks like, but it takes time and practice of being able to figure out what that is and then trust it. right? Listen to it
Yes.
and be able to differentiate between what's a yes, what's a no, what's a maybe. Does a maybe
Right.
mean a yes for you or a no for you, right? For me, a maybe is a no. If I feel maybe, then it's no. And when I say yes, then that's when we get into those situations where I'm like, oh, I made the wrong decision, right? But it
Sure.
takes practice. And so for me, I'm so excited for this because we're going to be able to share those huge life altering moments like the one that you just described. And we're also going to be able to share the teeny tiniest
Yes. Yeah.
moments that
Mhm.
are the moments where if we just take a moment to reflect on them, those are our biggest teachers and our
Yeah.
biggest sources of like proof, right?
Yeah.
It's the those are all the little times where we trust ourselves that build upon one another so that way when it comes to making that big decision we feel confident
Yes.
in doing it. And I'm so excited about the ability to share all of those different things because to me trusting myself doesn't just happen in the big moments, it has to
Hmm.
happen in the small moments too.
Hmm.
Otherwise it doesn't really, it's not that it doesn't matter, but it's not as impactful if we don't do it all the time or we don't aim to do it as much as we can.
Right. I'm so, so happy that you pointed that out because I shared obviously probably one of, if not the biggest pivotal moment in my life. So I shared a really capital B big moment with you all today. And so I'm so happy that you highlighted, Maggie, that there's not, of course there's times in our life where we have to make those really big um decisions, right? But they're not common. They come around every few years, maybe. Hopefully, I hope nobody has huge decisions all the time. That would be exhausting. Um, it's those small moments, it's those everyday moments, and it's in the other settings, whether it be, can I, and these are probably going to be some of the topics that we talk about. Can I trust myself to make decisions of how I move my body today, or what I put in my body, or the way I speak to myself, or the way I speak to someone else, or my spouse, or my friend? It's those little moments of trust in the daily, everyday, small moments, as you said, Maggie, that are really, really impactful so that they lead to the life that we are desiring. And the big decisions aren't so daunting when you've already had practice with trusting yourself in other ways. And so I'm really looking forward to diving back in episode by episode and sharing with our listeners, what that means for us. And one other thing I want to add is just that as we talk about why it's so important to trust ourselves, I kind of want to share our personal reasons as to like what it's done for your life to have this trust within yourself. So, Maggie, when you think of your life and this ability that you have to listen to yourself, find your voice through everyone else's, and make decisions, like what has that done for you on an everyday basis?
That's a really great question. I think the biggest thing that it's done for me, I could probably list hundreds, but what comes to mind first and the biggest thing that it's done for me is it has really drastically helped decrease my anxiety.
Mm,
Um, I find now that I am not perfect at this by any means, but I feel like I have found a pretty good rhythm of knowing when I'm making a decision for me and when I'm making a decision for someone else.
mhm,
When I make decisions for me, when I trust myself, when I put the needs of myself and my family, meaning, me, my husband, our dogs, our home first, I don't feel as anxious about
mm,
those things. And when
mhm,
I am not doing that, when I'm not trusting myself, when I'm making a decision based off of the opinions of others or societal influences or what I feel like I should do because of the way that I was raised or some message that is, ingrained into my brain for some reason that
Sure,
actually is
sure.
not my own. When I'm making decisions like that, I feel very anxious. And what I've noticed is that my anxiety overall has decreased a lot as I've prioritized trusting myself.
Hmm.
And so now I'm able to pinpoint, you know, pick out those moments when I am feeling anxious and be able to work backwards and say, maybe this is because I'm trying to please someone else instead of doing what's best for
Mm-hmm.
me, right? Instead of always feeling anxious and not being able to figure out why. And so I think that that is probably what has been the biggest impact on my life because I feel a lot more grounded. I feel a lot calmer. I feel clearer. I feel like I'm able to navigate those times when I am feeling pressure to make a decision for someone else. I feel
Hmm.
like I'm able to navigate that a little bit easier because I've built up all of that practice, like I
Right.
mentioned, right? And so it doesn't make those situations go away. It doesn't mean that they don't come up. It doesn't mean that you're not going to be faced with that moment where do I trust myself or do I give in to this external pressure? Of course, that's
Mhm.
always going to show up, but I've learned how to navigate those moments a little bit easier, which then makes my whole life better because I'm not having this residual impact of stress and
Mhm.
anxiety that continues to carry over.
Sure. And I'm hearing you say too that you trust yourself from moment to moment, which can allow the feeling of anxiety to come down. You get curious about it, but you're able to just trust that from the next moment to the next phase, the next season of life, I'm still going to be here and I'm still able to be here in a calmer, clearer place because I trust myself to handle what comes next. So instead of being, a lot of times if you're watching this on YouTube, you can see my shoulders going up. Like when we're feeling anxious, our body is ready, right? It's hyper vigilant because it's in a state of being prepared. Your body's trying to prepare you for what comes next, right? Whereas when you get to a place like Maggie has been able to, and your shoulders can drop and you can relax and say, I don't know what's going to come next. It might be wonderful. It might be great. It might be terrible. It might be somewhere in the middle, but I'm here with myself. And I know that through the next phase, I can trust myself to move through it and do what I need to do to help myself in those seasons.
Yeah, absolutely. And I think the other thing is that it makes it a little bit easier to change your mind, right?
Mm.
Because you know
Mm.
that you will make mistakes, you will make the wrong decision, you
Mm.
will commit to the wrong thing, right? And
Mm.
as hard as it is to have to say no or go back on your word or change your mind or something like that, um, it makes it a little bit easier to do that. And then that cycle
Sure.
can break, right? Of
Mm.
continuing to just please others. So that
Yeah.
is, yeah, really important for me.
Mhm. I'm so happy you shared that.
What about you?
For me, I have noticed a big difference in confidence that I feel. Um, I used to think as a confident person or woman or human as something entirely different than I view it now. It was
Mhm.
so tied to physical things. And if somebody looked confident, then I was like, oh, they must be super confident. And interestingly enough, for me, so much of my confidence now comes from a quiet comfortableness that I have with myself. Like it's not big and flashy and like cool in some words. Like trusting myself has given me the confidence to know that I'm here with myself and we're going to take it one step at a time. And that doesn't mean it's always easy. That's why we have a whole podcast for this, right? We can't get all these concepts out in one single shorter episode, but you'll hear me talk more about that and the confidence, and I'm sure you as well, Maggie. But on the topic of keeping it shorter, we want to give you some life updates because we're your hosts and you're going to get to know us. And we want it to be fun and get to know where we're at. So, Maggie, are there a handful of things or a few things quickly that I say quickly because her and I could be on here for 5 hours? That wasn't me being rude to Maggie. That was me putting boundaries on ourselves because we could talk to you all for hours and hours on end. Just some life updates.
Yeah. Well, overall, I'm mostly doing the same things as I was before with slight changes. I would still consider myself to be a coach, although the way that I work with people has changed. At this moment, I am not doing any like fitness coaching, anything like that, aside from I write a weekly article for our local newspaper, the Sullivan County Democrat. So I write a weekly article for that called Moving Toward Health. And then each week I go on the radio and we discuss it, and that's a lot of fun. So
Yeah.
that's pretty much the way that I'm doing health education at the moment. I also spent a lot of the last year doing, I don't exactly know how to describe it, but um, like productivity and performance coaching for some of our companies, for our employees. So that was a good time. But I'm not doing that anymore either. So yeah, I feel like at this moment, some of my main priorities are working really in the back end. My husband and I own a few businesses, so working in the back end of those, and just trying to take as good of care of myself as I can and my
Hmm.
puppies. We did get a new puppy who is now one. His name is Bennett, and he
Hmm.
is black, and you will probably see him dive into the video at certain points
Hmm.
because he loves to just come running in and jumping on my lap. Um, but yeah, at the moment, I think those are probably the biggest things.
Hmm.
But you have much bigger news than me.
No, those were great updates. I have a couple as well. So fast forward, I had already left the program when we were doing it, but left that program for real. Didn't go back to it. That book held me out of it, and I actually took some time, a couple years actually, and decided to go back, but to become a private practice therapist instead, so that I can have my own clients and work within, the realm of what I really specialize in. And so you'll see that we'll, leave our social media handles below, but you can find me and my therapy content under there. You'll see it under a last name because I have gotten married since we were on here last. So I'm now Megan Spencer. So you'll see it as Megan Spencer Therapy, which is very exciting and very special. I'm learning all about what it's like to be in a marriage and learning how to make it as strong as you can. And it's an adjustment, let me tell you, to learn how to truly make decisions for two people and a family as opposed to just yourself, right? So I'm sure we'll get into that at some point too, but it's been a really fun and wonderful, loving experience so far. And those are some of the biggest ones I would say, which are plenty for me. I don't like too many changes all at once. I've had a couple moves in the process as well, and do not recommend moving too much. I've had too many moves within the last couple years, but we're settling in, getting a routine, and I am so, so, so happy to be back bringing you all the podcasts alongside Maggie. We have big plans for this podcast, and we are so excited. We're calling it Third Time's the Charm. We started, if you're OG listeners, we were the Meg and Maggie podcast, which was incredible. Then we were becoming intuitive, which was also incredible. And now we are You Can Trust Yourself podcast, which is our most specific, exactly what Maggie and I know the most of between both of us. And we're ready to bring you all of that content here soon.
I'm so excited.
Thank
This is great.
you.
Okay, so updates. Yep, those are the main ones. You will definitely hear more as we go and share different things. But I think the last thing that I just wanted to say is that you can still expect one episode per week from us
Mhm.
on this show. Maybe we'll drop some extras here and there, but
Yeah.
one per week. And the only other like big change that you'll notice is that we're going to move into a seasons model. So we
Mhm.
haven't, worked out the exact details of that yet, but we will be producing a set number of episodes, let's just call it 10, right? Taking a short break and then coming back with a new season
Mhm.
after that. So I think that's probably the biggest change of what you can expect here. But other than that, we're just so excited to be back. We're so excited to be blabbing our little heads off again into these
Mhm.
microphones, into your earbuds, and
Yes.
getting
Yes.
to share this together. So,
Yeah.
yay.
And connecting with you all, I think that was one of our biggest things is that we this time around we're like, I want to hear from the listeners. I want to talk with them. I want to know what's going on. And so you'll see that also in, the outro that you're going to hear when we wrap this up. But leave us reviews, tell us your name, find us on social media. Like, we really want to connect and start building that community around the topic of trusting yourselves.
Yeah. So on that note, this was our first episode back, and you will find some more coming out every Monday after this. So,
Mhm.
yay.
See you all soon.
Bye.
Thank you for joining us on another episode of You Can Trust Yourself with Meg and Maggie. Our mission is to leave you with encouragement and tools to nurture your ability to trust yourself. If you found this episode valuable, don't forget to subscribe and please share with a friend. Then take a moment to leave us a 5-star rating and review. Your support helps our show grow, and for that we are extremely grateful. Follow us on Instagram, TikTok, Facebook, and don't forget to subscribe to our YouTube channel where you can watch the episodes. Till next week, lots of trust and love, Meg and Maggie.